have to buy new tires.
Some what?
What they do is they put a lot of little tiny cuts all through the forest so it increases your ability to.
So again, they've also been instrumental in helping purchase the house now being used as the Oxford House. And again, we'll hear a little bit more about that awesome project. They also helped get a grant for some case management, recovery coaching, and other important recovery-related services. So again, thank you, Latah County, for all of that. So let's thank a few people. Give them a little applause here. And also, Optum Idaho, the state Medicaid provider, again, a recurring supporter and advocate for the work done at the Recovery Center. The Don't Give Up signs that you see around the community, and there's some out there in the hallway, just a small example of the ways they help support recovery efforts through Idaho. And then finally, our Recovery Board of Directors, volunteers, staff, please stand and be recognized this morning. Thank you so much. So now, the star of the show, well, I'm not sure if he's a star, but Daryl, where's Daryl? There you are over there, okay. Please help me welcome Daryl Kime to the podium.
I got to talk into the microphone. I got to hold the microphone up. This worked better, Paul. And if I'm the star of the show, this is a really sorry show. What I wanted to share with you guys is a letter that we got a couple of months ago for one of our recovery coaches. And I wanted to share it because it's representative of a new program that we're doing. We're doing a re-entry program at the jail that was funded by the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. And as part of that re-entry program, we're providing free case management. And if you ever want a boring speech, I can tell you what case management is at some point, but not today. And we're also providing recovery coaching. And as people are coming out of the jail, we're also, so we go into the jail and provide those services. And then as they are coming out of the jail, we continue to provide those services along with helping them with rent, helping them make sure that they've got clothes for interviews, that type of thing. And the letter we got, though, was interesting to me because it wasn't from the person we were helping, it was from their family. So I'm going to read the letter, and it mentions one of our staff members' names, Ariana. But every time I say Ariana, I want you to just think of anybody in our staff virtually, except for me, dealing directly with peers that we deal with, could be receiving a letter like this. So with that little introduction, I will attempt to read you a letter. I'm writing this letter to let you all know how incredibly valuable Ariana has been to my niece and our family. Ariana contacted me last summer on behalf of my niece who was in jail pending a possible prison sentence due to a decade of significant drug use. My husband and I were the only and last option to keep my niece out of prison. As with most addicts, my niece had burned all her bridges while getting herself in a heap of trouble with the law. Only after meeting and talking extensively with Ariana did we agree to take my niece into our home. This would be the second time our niece would come to live with us over the course of the past 4 years. The first time we had no professional addiction support, and our niece had been with us now for 7 months, and while it's been extremely challenging, we are seeing signs of change and success, and we are hopeful. None of this would have happened or been possible without the ongoing support of Ariana. While my husband and I are both educated, working professionals, our experience with addiction has been limited to that of our niece. Having Ariana available to talk us through difficult situations and guide us as to the needs of an addict has been so important to all of our success. Ariana has been available at every crisis point in which we needed her. She's taken extensive time to coach and support our niece as well as us. Ariana has attended court hearings, made home visits, and unfortunately, hospital visits. No offense, Griffin folk. She's done that with us over the past 7 months. She's gone out of her way to share her knowledge and advise us when asked. Her own experiences make her an incredible resource to us and others. Her huge heart makes us all feel valued and cared for. We are grateful that Ariana is who she is and has the means through the Recovery Center to do what she does. It's making a real difference in a world that seems to seldomly care about addicts and recovery. Thank you for doing what you do, Ariana, and thank you, Latah Recovery Center, for providing such important and meaningful services. And thank you for listening to me. Baby. Paul.
So breakfast is going to be served now, and then we're going to watch a video here in a minute. I don't know if we want to get that ready now. Ready? Yeah. Okay. We'll get back on schedule. Wow. Okay. Okay. So breakfast will be served now, and we're going to watch a really cool video about the Oxford House. We can cue that up. Thank you.
Semi-serious, I had no idea what it actually meant. I figured it probably... Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that was the first one. Well, college students.
Heavily drinking, very heavily, getting arrested several times. I was in and out of jails, treatment centers, trying to get sober, and just going back out there over and over again in a vicious cycle.
Several terms are used to describe recovery homes. The most common include halfway house, three-quarter house, sober living, and group home. Oxford House is unique and is in a category all its own. It differs from traditional sober residential environments in many ways. These unique characteristics can be found in the history of the organization, the structure model upon which all houses are built, and the documented benefits for both the member living in the home and the entire community.
The things that I learned in Oxford House are the most important to me is how do I get out of self, right? Because when I got here, I was a very self-seeking, selfish individual, and I was compelled out of the gate to get involved in the service structure. Not only on the house level, but on the chapter level. And so I did that, and in doing that, I learned how to be of service to others.
The first Oxford House opened in 1975 in Silver Spring, Maryland. It was co-founded by Paul Malloy, the current CEO of Oxford House. He and several other men were living in a county-funded, county-ran halfway house in their early recovery. They could not afford staff, so they decided to run the home themselves. They called it Oxford House. In order to protect their own recovery, they know they needed structure. 3 simple rules were established. 1. Oxford houses operate democratically. There are no bosses. 2. Oxford houses are fully self-supporting. The members pay all of the bills themselves. 3. Oxford houses must expel any member who has a subrecurrence. Alcohol and/or drug use is never tolerated.
While my sister picked me up from prison, I know that my relationship with my family was so damaged that I wouldn't be able to go back there. And I had a lot of work ahead of me to rebuild those relationships, but I needed a place to live and to get right. And Oxford House gave me that.
The men of the first Oxford House soon learned just how important their home was to the community and to the men and women in recovery who were seeking safety, support, and structure.
It finally felt like I had a life worth living because I wasn't alone. And, they've said that the opposite of addiction is connection. And I hadn't known what connection was like until I came into the walls of the Oxford House.
They filled up quickly and stayed full. One house turned into several houses within a few short years. Each time a house filled, another was opened. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, the buzz and excitement around Oxford House began to grow nationwide. Houses started opening at a rapid pace. Behavioral health divisions of federal and state government began to take notice and show support for Oxford House expansion.
I relapsed and it was not good. I was drinking every day, I was drinking all day, and when my fiance came and picked me up one day, we got home and he said, I can't do this anymore, it's over. And I looked at him straight in the eye and said, if you kick me out of here, I've got no place to go. My parents aren't gonna take me, I've been drinking. I'm literally going to be under a bridge and I'm gonna die drinking.
Thousands of Oxford houses now exist for men, women with children, and men with children. Hundreds of new houses continue to open each year. Most houses have a mix of single and double rooms with an average total count of 8 beds. A house manual was written in the early years to give guidance to new houses. Traditions were formed to protect the integrity of the Oxford House name and prevent houses from straying from the basic premise. Chapters were created so that clusters of houses could meet regularly to share their experiences, look into expansion, and address any problems within the homes. True, there is no authority inside each Oxford House. There is no house manager with power or control over the other members. But that does not mean responsibility and accountability are not present. The peer-led structure inside the home works because every member has a voice and a choice. To maintain order, Oxford houses elect officer roles: president, secretary, treasurer, comptroller, and chore coordinator. Once a week, they have a business meeting to discuss the finances, house cleanliness, and supply inventory, and most importantly, the well-being of the home and its members.
And when we got there for the first time, I seen just how the scope of the peer support in Oxford House. There was men and women there talking about other houses and how they could help other houses and what they were willing to do to help those other houses. And I thought, wow, this is huge. And I think that was the moment I was sold. I wanted in. I wanted in on that.
Meetings are also held to accept new members when beds become vacant. Anyone seeking membership must schedule an interview with the house and receive an 80% acceptance before entering. Once moved in, each member is expected to participate in house meetings and chapter meetings, including the duties of an officer position once elected. They must maintain their recovery and remain abstinent. Because they all share the financial responsibility of rent, utilities, and supplies, each person must pay their portion on time.
I feel like the beauty of Oxford House is that separates it from any other sober living house is that we have thousands of houses nationwide, and that when you pay your equal expense share, it goes to that house. And if you get a fine, that fine goes to the house. It doesn't go to one person. We don't have managers. We don't have people who run the house. It's the people who live in the house who get to make the decisions and who get to decide where that money goes to. If it goes to a new TV or if it goes to a Unity event that the house puts on. If you do a pizza night and a movie night, or you go out to dinner, that house can pay for it because that money goes to the house. It doesn't go to anybody else.
Oxford House encourages individuals to start taking responsibility for themselves. Self-confidence grows quickly in Oxford House as life skills are learned through daily living. As each Oxford House develops into a home, a family culture emerges. Chores are assigned each week and basic house guidelines are developed. Members interact frequently and support each other. Members who cannot stay sober, get too far behind in their equal expense share, or become disruptive by breaking house guidelines or acting out in inappropriate behavior are voted out of the house. Otherwise, there is no time limit on living in an Oxford House. Every so often, a house may face challenges it cannot overcome on its own. This is where the external service and support show up. Safety nets exist around every Oxford House to help out if vacancies become too high, checking accounts become too low, or the internal structure becomes too unstable.
My path to Oxford House, well, first and foremost, had to include a lot of the trials and tribulations and a phone call. I had to reach out, I had to have enough of what I was doing and ask for help. And lucky for me that an Oxford House member answered the phone for me.
Nearby houses that belong to the same chapter will send their experienced members over to have special meetings and find solutions to most problems. Oxford House Inc., the 501c3 umbrella organization that charters each Oxford House, can often provide technical assistance to support new or struggling houses. The recovery community knows when experience, strength, and hope are freely shared, great things can be achieved.
Something that I'm very proud of today is that I'm a homeowner. You know, that was an idea that was just absolutely ridiculous to me. I never anticipated in my life that I would ever own a home. You know, and it was through the values of paying bills on time and the principle of being financially secured that I was able to do this, you know, and I learned these things from Oxford House.
Oxford houses across the country are doing that every day. The success of Oxford House is well documented and has been studied for decades. Success in recovery is hard to measure. Recovery can have a different meaning depending on who you ask. Oxford House success, however, can be measured. It has been done several ways over several decades. DePaul University and other independent entities have looked into Oxford House to see how it all works. What they have found is remarkable. Quality of life goes up, and costs to the community go down. Oxford Houses give people the time they need to become comfortable in recovery. Members enter Oxford House broken and often alone. They move out with a new lease on life as responsible, productive, and contributing members of the community. Members learn a new way to live. The cycles through treatment facilities and/or incarceration stop.
I love it. I love living in a community where everybody's on the same page. We are all about recovery, changing our lives, seeking a better future for ourselves, personal development. That is the pool that I needed to be in to become successful. I needed to be around like-minded people doing the same things as I am, and seeking purpose in life. And living with people in recovery gave me that purpose.
Recovery can happen quickly in Oxford House because of the insulation of support. Shattered relationships begin to mend, and families begin to heal. Long-term recovery is achieved by over 80% of those who stay at least a year.
I learned so much in Oxford House that I've been able to apply to my life outside of Oxford House on my own. You know, like the scheduling and the getting together and going over bills and paying them, balancing checkbooks. And in my house now with my partner, I've put the bills on corkboard. And we have structure around cleaning, so we do like a weekly deep clean. And then we also talk a lot about like different issues that we might be having in a way that is set up kind of like the new business section of our meetings in Oxford House where it's like, hey, I have this issue and he can address that. And I don't know, it just helped in our relationship and it's helped in maintaining a household.
Some who leave successfully become alumni members. They may leave the home, but they stay involved, pay it forward to the next newcomer.
I can't stress it enough that Oxford House gave me a chance when I needed it. And, you know, that's something that I will always want to make sure that everyone has that who wants it.
There's no financial cost to taxpayers for an Oxford House to exist. Each house supports itself. The only cost to the community is tolerance and understanding. Recovery can work for anyone, no matter what their active addiction looked like. Oxford House is proven to increase the chance of success. Hundreds of thousands of people have lived in Oxford House. Most have stayed sober. Oxford House is here to help, and we continue to unlock and open doors to meet the need. Oxford House provides a blueprint for success.
Oxford House has taught me so many different things, and I would not be where I'm at today if it wasn't for Oxford House.
To find an Oxford House with vacancies in your area, visit www.oxfordvacancies.com. Call the house of your choice to set up your interview today. To learn more about the history, structure, and success of Oxford House, please visit our official website, www.oxfordhouse.org.
Let's thank our IT over here. He held this to the laptop like this. Well done.
Must make such a difference, though.
Okay, what a great video.
Thank you.
And it's really a unique model that anyone with a house or any landlords in the audience, it's possible, it's doable. It's really cool to see this in our community. And as the video said, the only cost to the community is tolerance, understanding. Is that a cost? No. All right. You know, the work we're talking about today, the tax savings, and our community realizes the lives changed and saved. It wouldn't be possible without this board of directors and the direction that they help navigate this service with. But in order to maintain that authentic representation of the local recovery community, over half of the members of the Recovery Center board are required to be in some sort of behavioral health recovery themselves, which is incredibly amazing, humbling, and just incredibly transparent for all of these men and women. Again, I'd ask our board members to stand when we recognize. Board members. The center is also supported by dozens of volunteers that work about 200 hours per month. They're led by a small professional staff, and what a staff. JJ, Miranda, Amber, James, Cindy, Ariana, and Sean, and all those volunteers, thank you so much again. So at this time, we're going to continue on, and I'll ask Will Frassel to come up. Will has some remarks. Please help me welcome Will Frassel.
Okay, like you said, my name's Will Krausel. I retired in 2021 from law enforcement as a captain of the Moscow Police Department. Before we had this program, we would deal with a lot of people with substance abuse issues. We would take them to jail or to the hospital. They would get sobered up, they would get out, and they'd go right back to what they were doing. And you kind of become a little bit cynical, surprisingly enough, when it happens, but the Recovery Center came around, and retired Captain Paul Kwiatkowski is actually here too. He was first involved with it, and I saw the importance of it. and I saw the good it's doing. I got on the board of directors. I've stayed on the board of directors after I retired from law enforcement because it's made a bigger difference than anything else I've ever seen in my career. With that being said, it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. It's JJ Dean.
In prison this time for good when they offered me drug court. And this is where I met Savannah Valentine. We ran the reentry program. She took my information. Within 3 days, I got to visit Sean Hogan. I was released from jail and began drug court August 26, 2022. I met them the same day, and they set up a plan for me to follow and small goals to complete, which helped me to feel like I was accomplishing something. I would meet with Savannah once every 2 weeks and once a month. I met with Sean once a week and would write down some small goals each week. I'd complete them to start feeling better about myself. I began to do volunteer work there and help out the recovery center. I realized that I was doing volunteer work, that this might be the road that I need to take in my recovery. I mentioned this to Sean, Amber, Savannah, who mentioned it to Daryl that I was interested. I volunteered at the front desk at Latah Recovery Center. People noticed a change in me and how my recovery was going. I showed a lot of interest in my job, and when the position came open, I applied and got it. I plan to further my education in the field and become a peer coach, which will make me an asset to the Latah Recovery Center family, and possibly a full-time position. Being president of the Oxford House has helped me in my recovery. The Oxford House helped me get a better understanding of people that need the same help as I do. It is run in a democratic way in which everything is put into motion and then voted on by the residents. You're expected to attend no less than 3 meetings a week: church, NAAA, counseling, or some of the acceptable meetings. I go to the jail and interview potential people that may be eligible to become a resident. Then I take it back to the house so we can talk about it and set up an interview. Once we interview that person, we take a vote and decide if we want to accept this person. It has to be a majority vote. If accepted, we tell them to move it, their move-in date. It's not just people from the jail we interview all applications that are put in. I lost my place. As of date, all residents have a total of 1,889 days clean and sober. That's 5 years and 17 days. I'm very proud to be a member of that Oxford Clean and Sober House. I'm also trying to get Narcotics Anonymous back into jails for the inmates. I'm happy with the way my life is going right now. I have the Latah Recovery Center, drug court, Weeks in Beachery, and my counselors for that. I did all the footwork to be where I am today, but without their guidance and help, I could not have made this journey possible. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy day to listen to a brief outline of how I got involved with the Recovery Center and how it changed my life. I am just one of the many people for which the program has saved their lives. Tell a little nervous.
Thank you for sharing that, JJ. Congratulations. Okay, let's see if the technology will continue to confound us or bless us here this morning. I want to introduce our keynote speaker now. How close are we? Pretty close. Oh, good. Okay, all right. Her name is Rosie Andueza. A little bit about Rosie. She works for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. She is the Substance Use Disorder Program Manager for the Division of Behavioral Health. And she serves as Idaho's single state authority for substance use disorder program. She's a University of Oregon alum. Been working with health and welfare for, well, since 1998. Spending the first 15 years in the Division of Welfare, and then joining the Division of Behavioral Health in 2013. She has several young adult children, cares for her elderly mother, a rescue dog, and an old cat, although in her bio she says she really doesn't like the cat. Never been a cat person. Yeah, know how that is. As a person in long-term recovery, Rosie brings her passion for recovery and desire to reduce the stigma around this to her work every day. It's Rosie's dream to live in a world where individuals struggling with disease of addiction are not ashamed to seek the help, and that help is available when they are ready. So, with that, please help me welcome Rosie.
Are we on now? Yep. All right. Good morning, everyone. I was really honored when Daryl asked me to be a part of this wonderful occasion, and I was so very disappointed when my fear of winter driving kept me from making the trip. I kind of thought, you know, I put a lot of years and effort into keeping myself alive from addiction. I'm not going to blow it on a winter trip through the month. When I agreed to do this, I really thought that I'd be enjoying a wonderful, beautiful spring drive to Moscow. But here we are. So thank you for entertaining this method of delivery. You're probably all wondering why Daryl asked me to speak, because truly I'm not really that remarkable of a person. I believe that Daryl probably asked me to speak because of my involvement over the years in improving Idaho's substance use disorder system of care. Since 2013, I've been working for the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare, Division of Behavioral Health, managing the Substance Abuse Block Grant and state opioid funds. In 2014, I was really fortunate to be included with a group of diverse Idaho stakeholders who traveled to the state of Connecticut to learn more about this thing called a recovery center. I learned so much on that trip. I learned about recovery centers, their mission, their model, their mantra, to just provide help to people who are struggling with addiction. No questions asked, no judgment passed. I learned that people in recovery working with those struggling with addiction can simply work magic. And I knew about this from my own recovery journey, but I did not know that it could exist in a model like this. I learned that recovery centers give a new face to the words substance use disorder and person in recovery, that the community can start to see us differently and to accept us. And most importantly, I learned that there is a whole world of people out there, both people in recovery and those of you that we lovingly refer to as normies, that really care, that really want to help people succeed, and that really want to see the numbers of deaths due to addiction decline. We brought these crazy new ideas back to Idaho. We pitched them to communities all across the state. Some communities bit and some didn't. And then there was Latah County that bit hook, line, and sinker. It was amazing. From the very first meeting that we held there in Moscow, I knew something was different. I was invited to come out to a community gathering that you all hosted, just to pitch the idea and start thinking about possibly having a recovery center there. I knew it was different. More than 100 people showed up. The agenda was very well crafted. A judge spoke, a person in recovery spoke. It was fascinating. There were at least 3, maybe 4 media outlets on site. And again, you could just, the excitement was palpable. We knew we had something going up there in Moscow. There were challenges. There were a lot of challenges. My good friend Tom Stroshine and a member of your community was on that trip to Connecticut, and he came home and really made it his mission to get us centered up for you all in Moscow. I remember talking to Tom and asking, so a couple months into this, and I said, how's it going? And he said, you know, we're having the hardest time trying to find a location in downtown Moscow that will let us rent. They're all ready to rent until they find out what it is that we're doing, and then they don't want to rent to us. I thought about that for a minute, and I said, gee, Tom, that's pretty interesting. How many bars do you have there in Moscow? And if you think about the irony there, that, you know, opening a bar, people are comfortable with that, but opening a venue where people can celebrate their recovery is somehow threatening. But you all persisted, and you found a great location right there in downtown. So my hat's off to you. This community has always risen to the occasion to meet those challenges. Just this morning, hearing about all the work that's happening there, the Latah Recovery Center, I didn't hear mention of, but I am aware of a support group that the Latah Center is doing there at U of I, first of its kind, to my knowledge, in the state. We've heard about Oxford House. Again, you guys were front runners on that. When Idaho didn't have a contract up for Oxford House, it didn't stop you all. And you reached out to the state of Washington, Oxford House people, and got going before we could. You brought in case management, recovery coaching, housing, employment, and reentry services. These are all the things that we think of when we talk about the recovery-oriented system of care. Treatment is just one piece of recovery. We have to figure out how to live our lives beyond that treatment, and it's through those types of services that we're successful. My hat really goes off to you, and on behalf of the countless members of your community that this center has helped, I thank you. The other reason I suspect John might have asked me to speak today is because he knows that every time I have a microphone in an audience, I talk about stigma. The stigma surrounding the disease of addiction just continues, and I know from my own personal journey that stigma kept me sick for a long time. I didn't want to be somebody that couldn't control my drinking. I was afraid to tell my employer. I didn't use my insurance when I went to treatment. I was afraid that that black ball would follow me around, and I don't know that people with other diseases experience those same fears. Somebody with diabetes or heart disease or cancer I hope they're not afraid to talk to their boss or to turn it into their insurance. I think stigma keeps us sick, and the more that communities such as yours come together and acknowledge addiction is part of what we face, and it's not something to be afraid of or to be ashamed of, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Recovery centers really bring people in recovery out from church basements and put us in the middle of the community where we can give back. Daryl asked me to talk a little bit about so what's ahead, and I'm gonna go into some little bit of dark stuff here. As you're all likely aware, the death rate in Idaho from drug overdoses continues to increase year after year. I don't want to do a huge data dump here, but I'll do these numbers kind of slowly. In 2020, according to our public health DOPP website, there were 287 drug overdose deaths in Idaho, 287. In 2021, that number jumped to 353. So that's a 23% increase over the previous year, and nearly one death a day. For 2022, the data is not all in yet, but we do have the data for the first 3 quarters of the year. And so the first 3 quarters of 2022 look exactly like 2021. There was one more death in the first 3 quarters lower in 2021. But that data takes a while to go through and ask for the vital stats and this and that. So we may actually see more deaths in 22 than we saw in 21. The thing that we don't talk about much, not just in our state, but as a nation, is alcohol and alcohol-related deaths. It may alarm you to know that in Idaho, we actually had more alcohol-related deaths in 2022 than we had drug overdose deaths. That number is about 360. And that death rate does not include deaths by like vehicles or drunk driving or accidents. This is where deaths involving alcohol poisoning or just the system shutting down from years of alcohol use. So 2 deaths per day on that front. Between overdoses and alcohol, we're looking at about 2 deaths a day in our area in Idaho. I'd like to pause for just a moment to honor those lives lost to this treatable disease of addiction. I agree, things look dim, but only if we focus only on the tragedy happening around us. If we can try to focus our efforts one day at a time on what it is we can do to help the individual directly in front of us, what it is we can do to save a life, what it is we can do to help restore a family, we can find the strength and the ability to keep going. Each success, each time we see that glimmer of hope in someone's eye, we find the strength to help the next person. The Latah Recovery Center, the city of Moscow, and Latah County made this commitment 8 years ago. For 8 years, you have searched high and low and turned over many rocks to figure out how you could help today. You provide a place for scared and lost souls to find a hot cup of coffee. You provide a patient ear and a caring heart. You provide acceptance and support to people who forget what those things are. But most of all, you provide hope. Hope for the scared who no longer feel alone. Hope that recovery is possible. And hope that life is truly worth living. These things that you all provide are truly priceless. On behalf of the Division of Behavioral Health, as well as personally, I applaud each and every one of you for seeing us, people who live with substance use disorders, as competent, caring, and contributing members of your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosie. What a champion. Okay, we're going to have Daryl come up here in a second again. But first, I have a question. Does anyone in here know how much Pirates donate on average?
Oh,
no. A Buccaneer? Don't blame me for the bad joke. This is Daryl's script. I'm sure he's worked all year on it. And he said if I didn't tell that joke, I'd walk the plank. Yeah, it just keeps getting better, doesn't it? Seriously though, I want you to start thinking about making that donation now. It's really important to realize, a $5 return on investment by decreasing crime. Factor in medical savings. An investment you make today results in a $12 return on that investment. So again, so impactful. You heard it. It started here, really. So let's continue that. And Daryl, come on back up with your bad jokes and all.
I promise no more bad jokes, but that would be a lie. As my kids will tell you, I'm full of them. So ordinarily, I would give a rather large pitch right now for why you should give us lots and lots of money. And I hope that you do. But since we got such a late start, I'm just going to be really quick about this. Table captains, you all have pledge cards in the yellow envelopes at your table. They look a lot like this. Folks that are online, you can go to www.latahrecoverycenter.org if you'd like to give. And there's a tab you can click. I think it says support the Latah Recovery Center, something like that. Follow the instructions. I'm often asked how we can take pledges. Pledge envelope, fill it out. We can take credit cards, we can take cash, we can take checks, we can take postage stamps, negotiable securities, first or second born child, but only after I interview the child and I make the choice. Seriously, we would be appreciative of absolutely any gift you care to give. We hope people can afford to give 100, but if you can afford to give 5, we are super excited about that because we know it comes from a place of the heart. And with that said, table captains, please pass out the envelopes, collect your pledges, put them back in the yellow envelope. And at the end of the meal, my staff will come around and pick them up. Otherwise, I'm going to get out of the way and save us a couple of minutes here.
Thanks, Daryl. Sure. Thank you again. What a great breakfast, the Oxford House. If you know people that have rentals, I mean, really, again, it's this tolerance and understanding. That's the only cost, right? Amazing. JJ, thank you for that heartfelt testimony. Thank you for leading the Oxford House too. Very cool, very cool. Rosie, thank you if you're still with us online. Great story there. The board, volunteers, and all of you this morning, thank you for making a difference with the Latah Recovery Center.
Anyway, I want to thank Paul Kimmel for once again coming and speaking. He's been doing it every year since I've been on the board of directors. Have you been doing it every year since the Recovery Center's in existence? Well, once again, you're dedicated. You do a great job, and we appreciate it. We got a little token of our appreciation here. Thank you. There'll be table captains. There'll be somebody coming around. If you just hold up your envelopes when you're done with it, there'll be somebody coming around to pick them up. And I appreciate everybody for coming, and thank you.